Hey everyone! Tonight we are stepping quietly into a medieval German village at the coldest hour of winter. Snow presses against crooked timber walls. The wind slides through narrow streets. And somewhere behind a shuttered window, a small fire still glows. Carefully guarded, because if it dies, so might the people sleeping beside it. This is a world where winter is not a season, but a test. Where homes are built not for comfort, but for survival. Oak beams creak as they contract in the cold. Clay walls hold the day's last warmth. Smoke hangs low beneath the ceiling, blackening the timbers while keeping bodies alive. Outside, the ground is iron-hard with frost. Inside, families sleep close, sharing breath, blankets, and the fragile hope that morning will come. These half-timber-bird houses were not quaint. They were clever. Every beam, every low ceiling, every shutter and hearth was shaped by generations who understood cold as an enemy that never slept. At 20 degrees, mistakes were fatal. Firewood mattered more than daylight. Wool mattered more than beauty. And silence at night often meant safety. Before we set off, if you enjoy these quiet dives into history, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely do. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a small wonder to see this sleepy audience scattered across the map. Now, settle in. Imagine the smell of smoke soaked into oak, the soft crackle of embers beneath a hanging pot, boots drying near the hearth as snow piles higher outside. Tonight, we are not just visiting the past. We are sleeping inside it, listening to how ordinary people survived the cold when walls were thin, nights were long, and warmth had to be earned. Part 1. The house against the cold, dawn in the half-timber-bird home. A deeper chill, an almost metallic tang in the air, often preceded the first hint of light in a medieval German home. It clung to the rough timber and plaster, announcing the relentless cold that defined winter. Beneath heavy wool blankets, a body, stiff and slow from a night of meager warmth, registered the pervasive cold not as a distant threat, but as an intimate, insistent presence. The delicate filigree of frost, etched across the inner surfaces of the wattle and daub walls, shimmered faintly in the dim pre-dawn gloom, a chilling declaration of nature's relentless siege. The banked fire, a mere memory of embers deep within the central hearth, held the fragile promise of warmth, its faint glow a defiance in the profound, consuming darkness. Life in a medieval German home, particularly during the harsh winters, offered few amenities. The dwelling itself, a timber-framed structure with infill walls of mud and straw, represented a precarious sanctuary against an unforgiving environment. Awakening here was not a gentle transition from sleep, but a harsh confrontation with the elements, a daily test of endurance that began before the sun even contemplated its ascent. Every breath, visible as a fleeting cloud in the frigid air, bore witness to the constant struggle to maintain vital body heat. The straw mattress, a simple pallet laid directly upon the packed earth or plank floor, provided minimal comfort. Its dry, brittle stalks poked and scratched through coarse linen tunics and woolen shifts, offering a meager buffer against the lethal cold radiating upwards from the ground. Sleep, when it came, was a heavy, often restless descent into sheer exhaustion, punctuated by subconscious shivers and the dull ache of perpetually strained muscles. The returning consciousness brought with it the familiar pangs of hunger, an insistent thrum in the belly that demanded immediate attention. Sounds within the sleeping home were muted, amplified by the thick walls and the pervasive quietude. The soft rustle of straw as a family member stirred, the low, rhythmic breathing of a husband, a gentle sighs of children nestled deep in their coarse wool. Blankets, these intimate sounds formed a fragile chorus against the immensity of the cold. Often, the lowing of a cow or the bleating of a sheep, housed in an adjacent byre within the dwelling, added a deeper, comforting hum, their animal warmth contributing a vital, if odorous, increment to the internal microclimate. The frost, clinging like white lace to the inner surfaces of the mud and wattle walls, particularly near the small unglazed window openings, served as a stark visual reminder of the lethal temperatures outside. These windows, sealed tight with crude wooden shutters and often covered with oiled parchment, allowed only a bruised, hesitant gray light to filter through, offering a dim, ethereal illumination that barely pushed back the deep shadows clinging to the oak beams overhead. These beams, blackened by centuries of wood smoke, framed a ceiling that both defined and contained their fragile existence. Rising from the sleeping pallet required a conscious act of will. Numb, bare feet met the cold, damp earth floor, sending a sharp jolt through the body. The coarse linen and wool, worn for days or weeks without thorough washing, felt stiff against the skin, their fibers already imbued with the pervasive chill. Modern comforts, hot water, soft towels, warm clothes, were unimaginable luxuries. There was only the raw, unyielding reality of a life lived in constant negotiation with the elements. The hearth, a central pit or stone ring, held the smoldering embers, carefully banked with ash from the previous night. Its persistent, faint glow was a lifeline, a tangible link to warmth in the cold, dark void. It was a beacon of hope, however small, nurtured in the quiet moments of the prawn, drawing strength from the unspoken promise of another day. This fragile spark, a defiance against the overwhelming cold, became a profound psychological anchor. A new day, another trial. The frost on the walls, the cold in the air, the stirrings of family, these were the immutable facts of existence. A German winter, a formidable adversary, tested every fiber of human endurance. Yet, with the faint light and the persistent ember, life continued its slow, arduous rhythm, a quiet testament to unwavering resilience. Dawn in the half-timbered home unveils a challenging reality. You wake beneath heavy wool blankets as frost creeps along the inner walls, the fire reduced to embers, but still alive. This intimate scene reveals how medieval Germans navigated brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, tethered to the unyielding will to defy -20 degrees Celsius and carve warmth from winter's heart. Walls of wood and clay. Beyond the delicate frost on inner walls, which shimmered faintly in the dim morning light, the very structure of the medieval German home itself stood as the primary defense against the brutal onslaught of winter. Walls of wood and clay embodied a profound, ancient craft. Oak frames, wattle, and daub, these simple materials, meticulously combined, became the ingenious mechanism by which medieval builders trapped warmth, a testament to deep ecological knowledge and an unwavering will to defy temperatures plunging to -20 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside, thick with the earthy scent of wet mud, old timber, and lingering wood smoke from the banked hearth. The sounds were muted, absorbed by the density of the construction. Perhaps the soft creak of an oak beam shifting in the cold, or the distant whisper of the wind, now significantly muffled against the robust exterior. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, a visible barrier from outside, offered a stark, silent counterpoint to the pervasive chill within. Medieval timber-framed houses, ubiquitous across Germany and much of Northern Europe, were marvels of practical, adaptive architecture. Their construction was a precise, laborious craft, passed down through generations, born of intimate knowledge of local materials and the relentless demands of a harsh climate. This building method, utilizing locally abundant resources, was far from primitive in its effectiveness. The fundamental skeleton of the house consisted of a robust framework of heavy oak timbers. These massive posts and beams, often rough-hewn, were meticulously joined together using precise mortise and tenon joints, without the need for metal nails, which were expensive and scarce. This strong wooden frame provided immense structural integrity, capable of supporting heavy snow loads and withstanding fierce winter winds. Each joint, a testament to a carpenter's skill, was placed with painstaking care. Listen to the muffled sounds emanating from within the thick walls, their everyday murmurs absorbed and softened, creating a sense of profound stillness and relative security. Hear the subtle creak of the oak beams, the sturdy skeleton of the house, protesting softly in response to the cold, or the gradual expansion and contraction of the structure. See the rough, uneven surfaces of the interior walls, plastered with mud, their texture a constant, tangible reminder of the raw materials of their construction, illuminated by the struggling firelight. Between these timber frames, a network of interwoven smaller branches and twigs, known as wattle, was meticulously constructed. This flexible lattice created a strong base to hold the infill material. The infill itself was daub, a thick viscous mixture of local clay, mud, straw, and often animal dung. This daub, applied in multiple, thick layers, dried to form a remarkably dense, durable, and crucially insulating material. The straw and animal hair, incorporated within the daub, created countless tiny air pockets, which acted as an excellent thermal barrier, significantly slowing heat transfer. The combined effect of the thick timber frame and the dense, fibrous wattle and daub infill created remarkably effective winter walls. They meticulously trapped warmth, generated by the central hearth within the house, preventing its rapid escape into the lethal cold outside. They repelled the biting winds, minimized drafts, and offered a crucial buffer against temperatures plummeting to -20 degrees Celsius. This was not mere construction. It was an active fight against the elements, a profound understanding of how to make a shelter breathe warmth. The cold was insidious. It ceaselessly sought out any tiny crack, any weakness. However, the meticulous craftsmanship and the layered composition of these walls formed their primary defense, a silent promise of enduring warmth. A quiet endurance of ordinary families living within these resilient structures was a testament to the effectiveness of this ancient building technique, a daily triumph of ingenuity. Walls of wood and clay, these are the forgotten secrets. Oak frames, wattle, and daub, how medieval builders trapped warmth with simple materials and deep knowledge of winter. This construction method shaped not just dwellings but lives, offering a vivid glimpse into how medieval Germans defied the elements, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible cold. The ceiling that held the heat. Beyond the meticulously crafted walls of wood and clay, which provided a formidable defense against the bitter cold, the medieval German home incorporated another ingenious design secret for enduring brutal winters. The ceiling that held the heat was a crucial architectural feature. Low beams and thick thatch forced warmth downward, smoke curling slowly before escaping, transforming a simple roof into a sophisticated thermal regulator, a testament to deep ecological understanding, ingenious craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at -20 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-bird home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers above. Perhaps the soft rustle of a mouse, unseen in the thatch, or the gentle creak of ancient timber settling in the cold. Oak beams, blackened by centuries of smoke, now caught the faint firelight, revealing the intricate dance of heat. The roof of a medieval German house was typically a massive gabled structure, steeply pitched and thickly thatched with straw, reeds, or heather. This thatch, often several feet deep, was an exceptionally effective insulator, creating a protective thermal blanket against the intense cold and heavy snowfall. But its true genius for interior warmth lay in the deliberate design of the ceiling and the management of smoke. The ceilings of these medieval homes were intentionally kept very low, often just above head height. This architectural choice was crucial for heat retention. By significantly reducing the overall volume of the living space, the limited heat generated by the central hearth was concentrated in a smaller area, rather than dissipating upwards into a vast, empty void. This created a more confined, intimate, and importantly, much warmer, habitable zone for the family. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened by the dense layers of the roof. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising, gradually filling the interior. See the heavy oak beams, dark and lustrous from centuries of smoke, spanning the low ceiling, creating a contained, intimate space where heat could be effectively trapped. Low beams and thick thatch forced warmth downward, smoke curling slowly before escaping. The thick thatch of the roof, coupled with the low ceiling, created a remarkably insulated internal atmosphere. Smoke from the hearth, rather than escaping immediately through an open hole, would drift lazily upwards, often coiling around the blackened oak beams. This dense, smoky haze, while irritating to the eyes and lungs, served a dual purpose. It distributed residual heat more effectively throughout the room, before eventually seeping out through a small smoke hole in the ridge of the roof, or through subtle gaps in the thatch. This careful control of airflow minimized direct heat loss while facilitating smoke removal. This sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics and spatial design was a testament to ingenious craftsmanship. It ensured that precious warmth, generated by the fire and the collective body heat of the family and animals, was retained within the habitable zone, defying temperatures plummeting to -20 degrees Celsius. The psychological comfort of this well-managed warmth was immense, providing a palpable sense of security against the lethal cold. Its story, etched in every blackened beam, whispered of ingenious design. The ceiling that held the heat reveals a vital secret. Low beams and thick thatch forced warmth downward, smoke curling slowly before escaping. This medieval construction method shaped not just dwellings, but lives, offering a vivid glimpse into how German families endured brutal cold, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Windows that let almost nothing in, beyond the sturdy walls of wood and clay and the ingenious heat-trapping ceiling, the medieval German home incorporated another crucial, yet surprisingly austere, defense against the brutal winter. Windows that let almost nothing in were a profound, practical reality. Oiled parchment and shutters replaced glass, keeping out both light and deadly cold, transforming simple openings into meticulously managed barriers. This design prioritized warmth and protection over clarity, a testament to relentless vigilance and the deep understanding of insulation required to defy -20 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of oiled parchment as the wind subtly pressed against it, or the rhythmic creak of wooden shutters. Frost-fogged windows, now covered, illuminated by firelight, revealed a world utterly dependent on its fragile warmth and the protection offered by its opaque, limited light. Medieval German houses, particularly those of common peasants, rarely possessed glass windows. Glass was an expensive luxury, far beyond the means of the vast majority. Instead, openings in the walls, designed to provide minimal light and ventilation during warmer months, became significant vulnerabilities in winter. Their careful management was paramount for retaining precious warmth against lethal outside temperatures. The primary covering for these window openings was often oiled parchment or linen, animal skin, parchment, or heavy fabric, linen, meticulously prepared and treated with animal fat or linseed oil, became translucent. This material allowed a dim, diffused light to penetrate the interior, but crucially, it provided a flexible yet crucial barrier against the direct force of wind, snow, and rain. This was a primitive form of glazing, prioritizing essential insulation over a clear view of the outside world. Listen to the gentle rustle of oiled parchment, stretched taut over a wooden frame. A soft, almost imperceptible sound as the wind subtly pressed against it, constantly testing its resilience. Hear the rhythmic creak of wooden shutters, heavy solid planks, tightly secured against the window frame, protesting softly against the relentless winter wind. See the small, dark openings, now covered, illuminated by the flickering glow of the hearth, their surfaces opaque, allowing no clear view of the outside world, but effectively blocking its lethal chill. Oiled parchment and shutters replaced glass, keeping out both light and deadly cold. Over these parchment covers, heavy wooden shutters were meticulously secured, particularly at night and during storms. These thick, solid planks provided additional robust insulation, blocking out severe winds, minimizing drafts, and acting as a physical barrier against snowdrifts and potential intruders. They were closed tightly at dusk and only opened partially during the day, if weather conditions permitted and more light was absolutely necessary for tasks. The deliberate choice to sacrifice light for warmth was a profound adaptation to the extreme cold. With outside temperatures plummeting to -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit, retaining internal heat was an absolute priority. The limited, diffused light from parchment, and the near total darkness when shutters were closed, was a small price to pay for preventing lethal heat loss. The psychological comfort of knowing the outside elements were sealed out was immense. Its story, etched in every frosted pane, whispered of profound protection. Windows that let almost nothing in reveal a vital secret. Oiled parchment and shutters replaced glass, keeping out both light and deadly cold. This design defined how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, always tethered to the unyielding will to build warmth, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The fire that never slept, with the half-timbered walls and parchment-covered windows providing their crucial, if fragile, defense against the brutal medieval German winter. The ultimate battle against -20 degrees Celsius raged within the very heart of the home. The fire that never slept was a profound, unyielding command. Letting the hearth die meant danger. Embers were guarded like life itself, transforming a dangerous element into a ceaseless vigil and underscoring the unwavering discipline and profound courage required to maintain the fragile spark of life against overwhelming, lethal cold. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of straw as a family member shifted in fitful sleep, or the gentle breathing of a child nestled deep in furs. Oak beams, blackened by centuries of smoke, now caught the faint glow from deep within the ashes, revealing a silent, unwavering vigil. The central hearth, typically a simple pit or stone ring in the center of the room, was the undisputed focal point of the peasants' home. It cooked their food, provided essential light, and most crucially, generated the warmth that literally kept the family alive. Fuel, scraps of wood, gathered peat, or dried animal dung was precious and constantly scarce in winter. Its meticulous management was a matter of life and death, an unending chore in a season built for death. Listen to the soft hiss of dwindling embers, a barely audible sound signaling the fire's precarious state. Hear the anxious whispers of the fire tender, their voice low and strained with fatigue, muttering encouragement to the dying embers. See their figure hunched close to the hearth, wrapped in thick wool and worn cloaks, their eyes burning with fatigue, yet fixed on the precious, glowing heart within the ash pit. The faint red glow, pulsating gently, cast long, dancing shadows on the rough mud and wattle walls, a tiny, defiant spark against the overwhelming cold. The cold was insidious, an enemy that knew no surrender. It permeated the house, testing the fire tenders' endurance, tempting them with the seductive lure of sleep. They would shiver, huddle deeper into their furs, but their gaze remained fixed, unwavering. They understood the profound consequences of failure, the rapid onset of hypothermia for the sleeping family, the heightened danger from predators, animal and human, who feared no dark, the extinguishing of the home's very lifeline. The firekeeper, often an elder or a particularly vigilant adult, bore an immense, terrifying responsibility. Their duty was paramount, to carefully manage the dwindling fuel, to ensure that the precious embers did not die entirely, to nurture the fragile spark through the longest, coldest hours of the night. This was not a passive role, but an active, ceaseless vigil, the most crucial battle against the night's lethal embrace, ensuring warmth until dawn. This vigil was both physically demanding and psychologically taxing. Hours stretched into what felt like an eternity, the passage of time marked only by the slow diminution of the embers and the increasing intensity of the cold. The keeper fought against boredom, against the seductive pull of exhaustion, keeping their mind alert, constantly aware of the profound responsibility they bore. The very act of vigilance became a kind of prayer, a silent plea against the encroaching darkness. Its story, written in every flickering spark, whispered of unwavering protection. The fire that never slept reveals a vital secret. Letting the hearth die meant danger. Embers were guarded like life itself. This constant ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Letting the hearth die meant danger. Embers were guarded like life itself. Part 2. Building to survive winter. Beyond the fundamental placement of robust timbers and the daubing of insulating clay, the very integrity of a medieval German home, particularly one designed to defy a brutal minus 20 degrees Celsius winter, hinged on a profound, almost inherited wisdom. The carpenter's knowledge was a living legacy. Every joint, peg, and beam was placed with winter in mind, passed down through generations, transforming raw lumber into a sophisticated, resilient shelter. This bespoke craft, a testament to ancient ingenuity and deep ecological understanding, ensured the unwavering strength of their homes against nature's lethal grip. Imagine the air inside a bustling, open-air workshop, or even the rough ground outside a newly framed house, thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut oak, pine resin, and the subtle tang of human effort. Sounds within the workshop included the rhythmic thunk of mallets on wooden pegs, the precise whistle of saws cutting through stubborn timber, and the low murmur of... He understood how timber would react to freezing temperatures, to heavy snow loads, to persistent dampness. Listen to the rhythmic thunk of a wooden mallet driving a peg through a meticulously carved mortise and tenon joint, a sound of precision and deliberate effort that resonated through the sturdy framework. Hear the precise whistle of a handsaw, cutting through thick oak beams, its teeth biting into the stubborn, cold wood. See the heavy, rough-hewn timbers, their surfaces marked with chalk lines, their joints carefully fitted, rising to form the robust skeleton of the house, a testament to immense structural integrity. Every joint, peg, and beam was placed with winter in mind, passed down through generations. The choice of timber, often oak or pine, was crucial, selected for its strength, durability, and natural resistance to rot. The cutting and seasoning of the wood, often a long process, ensured its stability against the extreme temperature fluctuations of a German winter. But it was in the joinery that the true knowledge lay. Mortise and tenon joints, dovetails and scarf joints, meticulously cut and fitted without metal fasteners, created a framework of immense strength, capable of resisting the immense weight of snow and the relentless force of winter winds. The precise placement of each beam, each peg, each joint was not arbitrary. It was carefully planned to maximize structural integrity, to minimize drafts and to provide unwavering support for the heavy insulating roof. This comprehensive knowledge, encompassing not just carpentry, but a deep understanding of local climate and engineering principles, was passed down orally through rigorous apprenticeship from father to son, from master to apprentice, a living, evolving tradition. The psychological impact of such craftsmanship was immense. It fostered a deep sense of pride, a belief in their own ingenuity, and an unwavering commitment to quality. The house, once completed, was not just a shelter. It was a testament to their collective skill, a visible declaration of their capacity to defy the elements, to build enduring warmth. Its story, carved in every timber, whispered of ancient wisdom. The carpenter's knowledge reveals a vital secret. Every joint, peg, and beam was placed with winter in mind, passed down through generations. This craft shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill, forever tethered to the unyielding will to build warmth. Timber from the forest. With the meticulous carpenter's knowledge now guiding every joint and peg, the construction of a medieval German timber-framed home began with the most fundamental and vital raw material, the very trees themselves. Timber from the forest was a profound strategic acquisition. Trees were chosen in winter, dried slowly, and shaped to resist rot and cold, transforming raw lumber into the literal backbone of their enduring shelters, a testament to profound ecological understanding, painstaking craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to extract life-saving materials from a harsh, demanding environment. Imagine the air outside, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the earthy scent of fresh-cut oak, pine resin, and the subtle tang of human effort. Sounds within the frozen forest included the rhythmic swing of axes, the deep groan of falling trees, and the muffled crunch of footsteps on fresh snow. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, here replaced by the immense, silent forest, waiting to yield its bounty under a pale, indifferent sky. The selection and felling of timber for building was not a casual act. It was a precise, laborious, and often dangerous task performed with intimate knowledge of the forest and its cycles. The choice of tree species often, sturdy oak or resilient pine, its age, its health, and its growth pattern were all meticulously considered, for the quality of the timber directly impacted the strength and insulation of the future house. Listen to the rhythmic swing of axes, their sharp metallic clang echoing through the profound stillness of the winter forest, as men, their breath pluming white, labored to fell mighty trees. Hear the deep groan and crack of a massive trunk slowly succumbing, its branches rustling violently as it crashed to the snow-covered ground with a muffled thud. See the figures hunched against the cold, their faces grimly focused on the arduous task, their muscles straining. Trees were chosen in winter, dried slowly, and shaped to resist rot and cold. The felling of trees in winter was a deliberate, strategic choice, deeply rooted in centuries of practical experience. During the colder months, trees are dormant, their sap content at its lowest. This meant that timber cut in winter would dry more evenly, shrink less, and be more resistant to rot, fungal decay, and insect infestation crucial for the longevity and structural integrity of a timber-framed house. Once felled, the heavy logs were painstakingly hauled from the forest, often a back-breaking task through deep snow, using oxen or sheer human muscle. They would then be dried slowly, often for many months or even years, in sheltered spots, allowing the wood to season properly, further increasing its strength and stability. This slow drying process was essential for preventing warping, cracking, and decay, ensuring the timber's resilience against the brutal cold and dampness of a German winter. The shaping of the timber was equally painstaking. With axes, adzes, and saws, if available, the rough logs were transformed into precise beams, posts, and planks. Each piece was meticulously worked, its dimensions carefully measured, its surfaces smoothed, its joints precisely cut, all with the ultimate goal of creating a structure that would defy the relentless cold and damp. Its story, carved in every mighty log, whispered of profound foresight. Timber from the forest reveals a vital secret. Trees were chosen in winter, dried slowly, and shaped to resist rot and cold. This meticulous process shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Daub, straw, and animal hair. With the robust timber frame now standing defiantly against the frigid German sky, its meticulously shaped timbers forming the sturdy skeleton of the house, the crucial next phase of winter construction began. Daub, straw, and animal hair were the subtle yet indispensable secrets of warmth. Walls sealed with earth and fiber, primitive insulation that saved countless lives, transforming abundant local materials into a remarkably effective shield against minus 20 degrees Celsius, embodying ingenious craftsmanship, profound ecological knowledge, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip. Imagine the air inside the newly framed house, thick with the earthy scent of wet clay, dried straw, and the subtle tang of human presence, mingling with the biting cold. Sounds within the worksite included the rhythmic squish of mud, the slap of daub against wattle, and the low murmur of communal effort. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, a visible barrier, underscored the immense importance of their craft as cold winds subtly probed the open spaces. The spaces between the robust timber frames of the house were not left open. They were carefully filled with an ingenious mixture of readily available local materials, creating walls that were remarkably dense, durable, and crucially insulating. This was the infill, the wattle and daub system, a cornerstone of medieval building technology. Listen to the rhythmic squish of thick mud, mixed with straw, as it was repeatedly trodden by bare feet or worked by hand, achieving the perfect consistency. Hear the soft slap of this daub mixture being forcefully pressed onto the woven wattle lattice, covering the framework layer by painstaking layer. See the rough, uneven surfaces of the newly applied daub, gradually filling the gaps between the dark timber beams, transforming the open frame into solid, protective walls. Walls sealed with earth and fiber, primitive insulation that saved countless lives. The process began with the wattle, a lattice of interwoven smaller branches and twigs, meticulously woven between the main timber posts. This created a strong, flexible framework to hold the daub. The daub itself was a thick, viscous mixture of local clay from abundant earth, straw from the previous harvest, and often animal hair from cattle or horses, mixed with water. The straw and animal hair acted as binders, increasing the daub's strength and, crucially, creating countless tiny air pockets within the thick mixture. These trapped air pockets were the key to its insulating power. They slowed the transfer of heat away from the house and prevented the lethal cold from penetrating from outside. The thick, dense daub also provided excellent protection against wind and driving snow, creating a remarkably effective barrier against temperatures plummeting to minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. This was not mere construction. It was an active fight against the elements, a profound understanding of how to make a shelter breathe warmth. The construction of these walls was a communal, arduous effort, demanding immense collective strength and painstaking patience. Thousands of handfuls of daub would be mixed and applied, layer by layer, slowly building up the thickness of the walls. This was a profound act of collective ingenuity, transforming humble, natural materials into a life-saving shield. Its story, etched in every mud brick and fiber, whispered of profound protection. Daub, straw, and animal hair reveal a vital secret. Walls sealed with earth and fiber, primitive insulation that saved countless lives. This meticulous process shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Raised floors and frozen ground, with a robust timber frame and meticulously daubed walls defying the bitter German winter, medieval builders turned their attention to the crucial interface between human life and the cold, unforgiving earth. Raised floors and frozen ground were a profound secret of warmth. Homes lifted slightly above earth to stop frost from creeping upward at night, transforming a simple architectural feature into a sophisticated thermal barrier, a testament to ancient ecological understanding, ingenious craftsmanship, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at minus 20 degrees Celsius. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of dry straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the layers of construction. Perhaps the soft creak of wooden planks as someone shifted their weight, or the gentle rustle of bedding, creating a quiet cadence. Boots drying near a low hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, rested on a floor that offered surprising warmth. The ground within a medieval house, particularly if the floor was simply packed earth, would relentlessly radiate cold upwards, chilling the interior and making sleep profoundly uncomfortable, if not dangerous. Medieval builders, however, developed ingenious solutions to combat this insidious invasion of cold from below, understanding that separating the living space from the frozen earth was paramount. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft creak of wooden planks as someone shifted their weight, a rhythmic cadence that spoke of the floor's robust construction. See the floor itself, not directly on the earth, but subtly elevated. Its wooden surface a clear separation from the frozen ground below, glowing faintly in the firelight. Homes lifted slightly above earth to stop frost from creeping upward at night. The most effective method was to construct a raised wooden floor. Heavy timber joists, often rough-hewn oak, would be laid over low stone foundations or stout wooden posts, creating a crawl space or a shallow cellar beneath the main living area. This elevated wooden floor, often covered with packed earth and then layers of straw or rushes, created a crucial air gap between the living space and the cold, damp ground. This air gap was the key to its insulating power. It prevented the direct transfer of lethal cold and dampness from the frozen earth upwards into the home. The trapped air within this space, warmed slightly by the radiant heat from the hearth and the collective body heat of the occupants, formed a vital thermal buffer, effectively stopping the frost from creeping upward at night, ensuring a more consistent warmth within the dwelling. In some cases, a small, shallow cellar might be dug beneath the raised floor, used for storing root vegetables or preserved foods. While cold, this subterranean space, insulated by the earth itself, remained at a more stable temperature than the air above ground, and the floor above, it still benefited from the crucial air gap, further contributing to the overall warmth of the house. Its story, etched in every raised plank, whispered of profound foresight. Raised floors and frozen ground reveal a vital secret. Homes lifted slightly above earth to stop frost from creeping upward at night. This ingenious design shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Roofs built for snow. With a robust timber frame, meticulously daubed walls, and cleverly raised floors defying the biting German winter, medieval builders turned their attention to the ultimate shield against the elements above. Roofs built for snow were a profound architectural secret. Steep angles shed weight, preventing collapse during heavy alpine winters, transforming a simple covering into a sophisticated structural masterpiece, a testament to ingenious craftsmanship, deep ecological understanding, and the unwavering will to outwit nature's lethal grip at minus 20 degrees Celsius. Steep angles shed weight, preventing collapse during heavy alpine winters. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the subtle rustle of a mouse in the thick thatch, or the low murmur of voices discussing tomorrow's tasks. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, here replaced by immense, towering snowdrifts against the eaves, illuminated by firelight. Medieval German houses, particularly in regions prone to heavy snowfall like the Alpine foothills, featured distinctive roof designs. These were not flat or gently sloping structures, but steeply pitched roofs, often with gables, specifically engineered to manage the immense challenge of winter snow. Their very angle was a declaration of defiance against the crushing weight of the elements. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened by the dense layers of the roof. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising, gradually filling the interior. See the massive, steeply angled roof, its thick layers of thatch, or sometimes timber shingles, creating a formidable barrier against the elements. Its very pitch a testament to engineering designed for survival. The primary purpose of the steep pitch was to prevent the dangerous accumulation of heavy snow. In regions where snowfall could be immense, a flat or gently sloping roof would quickly accumulate a prohibitive weight of snow and ice, threatening to collapse the entire structure, burying the family beneath heavy beams and freezing debris. The steep angle allowed snow to naturally slide off, shedding its weight and preventing catastrophic structural failure, a crucial safety feature. The thick layers of thatch reeds, straw, or heather up to several feet deep were packed meticulously onto the robust timber framework of the roof. This thatch was an exceptionally effective insulator, trapping countless air pockets that formed a protective thermal blanket against the intense cold and wind. It minimized heat loss from the top of the house and provided a crucial barrier against temperatures, plummeting to minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Its layered density was a profound natural form of insulation. The craftsmanship involved was meticulous. The precise angle of the roof, the careful layering of the thatch, the robust timber framework, all were elements of a profound understanding of building mechanics and environmental adaptation. This knowledge, encompassing not just carpentry, but a deep understanding of local climate, was passed down orally through apprenticeship from generation to generation, ensuring resilience. Its story, etched in every steep angle, whispered of profound foresight. Roofs built for snow reveal a vital secret. Steep angles shed weight, preventing collapse during heavy alpine winters. This ingenious design shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Part 3. Daily life in the cold, dressing for survival. With their timber-framed houses meticulously designed to defy the brutal German winter, and their occupants seeking refuge within. Another crucial layer of defense shielded humanity from the minus 20 degrees Celsius cold: their clothing. Dressing for survival was a continuous, uncompromising ritual. Layer upon layer of wool, linen, and leather, fashion mattered far less than warmth, transforming essential garments into an indispensable mobile fortress against the frost, defining the very essence of human warmth and endurance in a world utterly indifferent to exposed flesh. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-built home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by the rich, earthy smell of damp wool and cured leather. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of heavy fabrics as a family member stirred, or the gentle creak of worn leather. Boots drying near a low hearth, gently illuminated by its flickering glow, sat beside layers of clothing. Your wardrobe consisted of simple, utilitarian garments, passed down through generations, meticulously mended countless times. Clothing was expensive to produce, made from painstakingly grown flax for linen, or shorn wool from precious sheep. Every stitch, every piece of fabric, was a treasured commodity, vital for survival against the unforgiving cold. Listen to the soft rustle of coarse wool as you moved, the faint scrape of fabric against skin, a constant low-level irritation amplified by the pervasive odors. Hear the gentle creak of worn leather as a belt was fastened or a boot pulled on. See the dull, muted colors of the garments blending into the earthy tones of the home, their surfaces thick with accumulated dirt, dust, and the indelible stains of daily labor. Layer upon layer of wool, linen, and leather, fashion mattered far less than warmth. The genius of medieval cold weather survival lay in this meticulous layering. A base layer of rough linen, softer against the skin, wicked away moisture. Over this, several tunics or shifts of dense undyed wool were worn. Wool, with its natural lanolin, offered remarkable insulation, trapped air, and retained warmth even when damp, a crucial property in a world of pervasive moisture. Leather, often used for outer garments like jerkins, vests, or sturdy shoes and boots, provided an additional, impermeable barrier against wind and moisture. These materials, meticulously combined, created a formidable, mobile fortress against the cold's insidious bite, protecting the fragile human body from frostbite and hypothermia in temperatures plummeting to minus 20 degrees Celsius. The cumulative effect of these layers was paramount. Fashion mattered far less than warmth. There was no room for ostentation or frivolous display. The primary purpose of clothing was function: to insulate, to protect, to preserve life. Every garment was chosen and worn for its capacity to trap precious body heat, transforming the wearer into a walking, breathing barrier against the lethal chill. The discomforts were minimal compared to the alternative. Its story, woven into every grubby thread, whispered of profound protection. Dressing for survival was a pervasive, fundamental reality for medieval Germans. A calm, immersive journey through snow-covered landscapes, charting how families endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the fierce, unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius and build life in a world that sought to freeze it. Its warmth a profound secret of enduring strength. Sleeping together for heat, with the meticulous layering of wool and linen protecting their bodies and the thick timber-framed walls providing a vital shield, the ultimate defense against the lethal cold of a medieval German winter came from within the human group itself. Sleeping together for heat was a fundamental, primal strategy. Families shared beds, animals slept inside, and body heat became insulation, transforming the crowded dwelling into a living, breathing furnace, a testament to profound interdependence and the relentless art of staying warm. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-built home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. now permeated by a palpable, almost suffocating closeness. Sounds within the dwelling were muted, absorbed by the dense layers of construction. Perhaps the soft rustle of straw as a family member shifted in fitful sleep, or the gentle breathing of a child nestled deep in furs. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight illuminated a dense mound of human and animal forms, their shared warmth battling the chill. The beds in a medieval German peasant home were typically large, communal pallets on the packed earth floor, thickly layered with straw or dried bracken. These were not individual sleeping spaces, but designated areas for the entire family. As the deep cold of the winter night pressed in, the arrangements became even more intimate. Often into an adjacent byre that was an extension of the living space or a partitioned corner of the single room. A cow, a few sheep or goats, their large bodies, radiating heat, contributed significantly to the collective warmth of the human furnace. Their musky scent and soft breathing became a constant, earthy backdrop to the shared sleep, further bolstering the internal temperature. Each human and animal body, burning its own internal furnace from meager rations, contributed its heat to the collective. The air trapped between the intertwined forms Part 4. Winter Threats When Firewood Ran Low. As the brutal medieval German winter plunged its lethal grip upon the land, freezing rivers and burying fields under snow, the very act of staying warm became a daily, desperate gamble. When firewood ran low was a profound, terrifying reality. Cold nights without fuel turned homes into tombs, transforming a fundamental necessity into an unattainable luxury, intensifying the chilling dread of hypothermia, and unleashing a profound fear of losing the very heart of their homes, condemning families to a slow, agonizing death in the relentless dark. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-bird home, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the subtle scent of ice, frozen mud, and the pervasive aroma of human desperation, now mingling with the acrid tang of an extinguished fire. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a thriving hearth. They included the low moans of shivering bodies, the soft rustle of thin blankets, and the profound, almost eerie silence of a home stripped of its warmth. Oak beams blackened by centuries of smoke, now cold and silent, testified to a life force extinguished. The central hearth fire, carefully managed and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was the heart of the medieval home. It cooked their food, provided essential light, and most crucially, generated the warmth that literally kept the family alive. Fuel scraps of wood, gathered peat, or dried animal dung was precious and constantly scarce in winter. Its meticulous management was a matter of life and death, an unending chore in a season built for death. Listen to the low moans of shivering bodies, their voices thick with cold and despair, as they huddled together, trying to generate warmth from their own failing bodies. Hear the soft rustle of thin blankets, insufficient against the penetrating cold, as family members shifted restlessly. See the hearth, its pit empty, filled only with cold, gray ash, a stark visual reminder of its extinguished life, its vital warmth utterly vanished. Cold nights without fuel turned homes into tombs. This was the ultimate, terrifying consequence of a firewood shortage. Without the radiant heat of the hearth, the interior temperature of the half-timber-bird home would rapidly plummet to lethal levels, matching the minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit, or colder outside. The thick walls and thatched roof, while insulating, could only slow the inevitable invasion of deathly cold. Hypothermia would set in slowly, insidiously. Bodies, already weakened by chronic hunger and shallow sleep, would struggle desperately to generate and retain heat. Shivering would become uncontrollable, followed by confusion, lethargy, and ultimately, a peaceful, fatal slumber from which there was no awakening. The home, once a sanctuary, would transform into a cold tomb, its occupants quietly claimed by the relentless chill, their fragile lives extinguished. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of the dwindling fuel supply, the knowledge that their survival hinged on the next precious piece of wood, fueled a deep-seated anxiety. The fear of losing the fire, of being plunged into lethal cold and darkness, was a pervasive, profound terror that overshadowed every waking hour and haunted every restless sleep. The winter itself was a relentless adversary. The scarcity of firewood, the arduous labor of foraging for fuel through deep snow and frozen ground, the high cost of purchasing it, all these compounded the profound vulnerability of the peasant family. Each dwindling log was a silent countdown to potential disaster. Its story, written in every shivering breath, whispered of profound vulnerability. When firewood ran low reveals a vital secret. Cold nights without fuel turned homes into tombs. This harsh reality shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Illness in frozen rooms. Beyond the terrifying prospect of a fireless night, the brutal cold of a medieval German winter spawned a more insidious, pervasive killer within the very confines of the home. Illness in frozen rooms was a relentless scourge. Coughs, fevers, and stiff joints worsened as cold weakened the body, transforming the fragile sanctuary of the half-timbered house into a breeding ground for contagion, and underscoring the immense fragility of life in an age utterly devoid of modern hygiene and medical understanding, where even rest offered no true safety. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, stale breath, and the subtle tongue of human presence, now mingled with the sour smell of sickness and profound weakness. The sounds were no longer the low moans of hunger. They included the insistent, racking coughs, the low moans of fever, the quiet whimpers of pain, and the anxious murmurs of worried family members. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight, illuminated faces etched with profound anxiety and grim determination. The extreme cold of a medieval German winter, coupled with chronic malnutrition, poor sanitation, and the sheer exhaustion of daily labor, created a lethal environment for disease. Immune systems, already weakened, struggled to fight off even minor infections. The crowded conditions within the home, where families and often animals huddled together for warmth, ensured swift contagion, transforming shared warmth into a dangerous incubator. Listen to the insistent, hacking coughs echoing through the cramped room, their sound raw and insistent, making breath a painful struggle for a feverish child or a weakened adult. Hear the low moans of feverish bodies, tossing restlessly on their straw beds, their skin slick with sweat, yet shivering uncontrollably. See the flushed faces, the dull, unfocused eyes, the small, frail bodies fighting a desperate, silent battle against an invisible enemy, their fragile lives hanging in the balance. Coughs, fevers, and stiff joints worsened as cold weakened the body. Persistent coughs and chest fevers could quickly escalate into pneumonia, stealing breath with terrifying speed, particularly from the very young, the very old, and those already weakened by deprivation. The damp, penetrating cold aggravated joint pain, leading to debilitating stiffness and exacerbating chronic ailments, turning every movement into a struggle. The body, weakened by cold and hunger, was far more susceptible to infection. A simple cut could turn septic. A common cold could become lethal pneumonia. The lack of effective medicine, the absence of trained physicians, and the immense difficulty of seeking help from distant settlements meant that even relatively minor illnesses could quickly become fatal. Recovery was often a matter of chance or divine whim, not scientific intervention. The psychological impact was immense. A constant fear of illness, the knowledge that a sudden fever or a persistent cough could swiftly claim a loved one, was a crushing burden. It amplified the sense of profound helplessness, deepening the despair, transforming the fragile sanctuary of the home into a crucible of suffering and fear. The bed, far from being a guarantee of safety, often became a place of profound struggle, a silent witness to immense pain. Its story, written in every racking cough, whispered of constant peril. Illness in frozen rooms reveals a vital secret. Coughs, fevers, and stiff joints worsened as cold weakened the body. This harsh reality shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Snowbound isolation. As the brutal medieval German winter clamped its lethal grip upon the land, silencing rivers and freezing fields, the relentless fall of snow often imposed a new, terrifying threat beyond cold and hunger. Snowbound isolation was a pervasive, chilling reality. Villages cut off for weeks, relying entirely on stored food and faith, transforming communities into precarious islands, and underscoring the immense fragility of their existence, perpetually at the mercy of nature's overwhelming, unforgiving power. Imagine the air outside, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, stealing your breath, thick with the subtle scent of ice, frozen earth, and the pervasive aroma of human apprehension, now mingled with the profound stillness of an immense, unbroken white. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a thriving fire. They included the low murmur of anxious conversations, the rhythmic creak of wooden floors, and the profound, almost eerie silence that snow itself created. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, piled high against every door, was a visible, unyielding barrier. The medieval German landscape, particularly in regions with heavy snowfall, or in the mountainous areas, could be utterly transformed by winter blizzards. Roads, mere muddy tracks in warmer months, would vanish under immense snowdrifts, making travel impossible. Rivers, their currents frozen solid, became equally impassable. Villages, once connected by tenuous pathways, would become entirely cut off from the outside world, sealed within a vast white expanse. Listen to the low murmur of anxious conversations, their voices hushed, discussing dwindling food supplies, the lack of news from neighboring villages, the terrifying uncertainty of when the snows might finally lift. Hear the rhythmic creak of wooden floors, protesting the constant cold as family members shifted restlessly. See the immense snowdrifts, piled high against every door and window, burying entire sections of houses, transforming the village into a landscape of undulating white. Villages cut off for weeks, relying entirely on stored food and faith. For weeks, sometimes even months, communities would be utterly isolated, their inhabitants confined to their homes or to the immediate vicinity of the village. Their survival depended entirely on the provisions painstakingly gathered and stored from the previous autumn. Grain in granaries, vegetables in cellars, salted meats in barrels. Every crumb, every ration became precious beyond measure, a grim daily calculation. But beyond physical sustenance, they relied on faith. Isolated, cut off from any outside help, the communities turned inward and upward. Prayers for deliverance, for warmer weather, for the eventual return of spring, rose from every home, from every church. Faith became a psychological anchor, a source of solace and a desperate hope against the overwhelming despair, binding them to a higher power. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of their isolation, the knowledge that no help could reach them, amplified every fear of hunger, of sickness, of death. The profound silence of the snowbound landscape, broken only by the howl of the wind, amplified the sense of loneliness, of vulnerability, of being utterly at the mercy of nature. Its story, written in every isolated creek, whispered of profound fortitude. Snowbound isolation reveals a vital secret. Villages cut off for weeks, relying entirely on stored food and faith. This harsh reality shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The fear of collapse, as the brutal medieval German winter plunged its lethal grip upon the land, burying villages under immense snowdrifts and imposing a chilling isolation. Another profound anxiety gnawed at the hearts of those huddled in their timber-framed homes. The fear of collapse was a pervasive, terrifying reality. Heavy snow could crush roofs, trapping families beneath beams and ice, transforming their cherished sanctuary into a sudden tomb, underscoring the immense fragility of their shelters and the relentless power of nature's destructive forces. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-built home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the low murmur of anxious conversations. They included the rhythmic creak and groan of straining timbers, the muffled thud of fresh snowfall, and the anxious silence of a family listening intently. Snow pressing against crooked timber walls, piled high against the roof, was a visible, ominous weight. Medieval timber-framed houses, for all their ingenious construction, were designed to resist severe weather, but they were not indestructible. The roofs, typically steeply pitched and thickly thatched, were designed to shed snow. However, in regions prone to heavy alpine winters, the sheer volume of snowfall, especially wet, heavy snow, could accumulate faster than it could slide off, creating an immense, crushing burden. Listen to the rhythmic creak and groan of straining timbers above, a profound, ominous sound that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the house, resonating through its structure. Hear the muffled thud of fresh snowfall, accumulating relentlessly, adding to the immense, unseen weight. See the oak beams, dark with smoke, now visibly sagging, their surfaces sometimes showing faint cracks, reflecting the immense pressure they bore, illuminated by the struggling firelight. Heavy snow could crush roofs, trapping families beneath beams and ice. This was the ultimate, terrifying consequence. If the roof's timber framework, weakened by rot or simply overwhelmed by the unprecedented weight of snow, were to give way, it would collapse inward, burying the family beneath heavy beams, thatch, and freezing snow and ice. Such an event, particularly during a blizzard or in the depths of night, would be catastrophic, a swift, brutal end to their precarious survival, leaving no trace. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of this pervasive threat, the knowledge that their home, their most precious sanctuary, could collapse at any moment, fueled a deep-seated anxiety. It bred a profound sense of vulnerability, deepening the fear of being trapped, of succumbing to the cold and the debris, a relentless internal battle fought in the stillness of the night. The family, huddled close, shared this grim reality. Their sleep, often shallow and restless, was punctuated by every creak of the timbers, every muffled thud of new snow. The father, or head of the household, would periodically check the roof from inside, looking for signs of strain, perhaps attempting to clear snow if it was safe to do so, his vigilance a constant battle against the profound fear. Its story, written in every straining creak, whispered of profound vulnerability. The fear of collapse reveals a vital secret. Heavy snow could crush roofs, trapping families beneath beams and ice. This harsh reality shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Winter deaths. As the brutal medieval German winter plunged its lethal grip upon the land, silencing rivers and freezing fields, and families huddled within their fragile homes, the relentless cold claimed lives with terrifying efficiency. Winter deaths were a grim, pervasive reality. Cold claimed the old, the sick, and the unlucky, quietly and often, transforming a season of hardship into a relentless, silent reaper, and underscoring the immense fragility of life in an age utterly devoid of modern medicine, comfort, or any true defense against nature's merciless power. Imagine the air inside the half-timbered home, utterly frigid, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, stale breath, and the subtle tang of human presence, now mingled with the sour smell of sickness, profound weakness, and the chilling scent of death. The sounds were no longer the low moans of hunger. They included the soft breathing of sleeping families, the low moans of the dying, and the profound, almost eerie silence that sometimes fell over a household. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight, illuminated faces etched with weariness and profound sorrow. The medieval winter was always a period of increased mortality, particularly for the most vulnerable members of society. But in a brutal winter, when famine began to bite and the cold reached lethal extremes, death rates soared to catastrophic levels. Bodies, weakened by hunger, illness, and constant cold, succumbed quickly, often in the quiet solitude of their homes, away from the chaos of plague or war. Listen to the low moans of the dying, their voices hoarse with cold and despair as they lay on their straw beds, their bodies frail, their strength ebbing. Hear the hushed whispers of grieving family members, reciting ancient prayers, sharing final, mournful words. See the solemn faces of those gathered, their expressions grim, their hearts heavy with grief, yet accepting of the inevitable, their breath pluming white in the frigid air, illuminated by the dwindling firelight. Cold claimed the old, the sick, and the unlucky, quietly and often. The very old, their bodies weakened by a lifetime of toil and the natural decline of age, were most susceptible to hypothermia and cold-related illnesses like pneumonia. The sick, already battling fevers or chronic ailments, found their bodies simply unable to fight any longer against the relentless chill. And the unlucky, those caught in a blizzard, those whose firewood ran out, those whose roofs collapsed, met a swift, brutal end, often without witness or immediate discovery. Death came quietly. Unlike the dramatic violence of the battlefield or the swift terror of plague, winter deaths often occurred silently, insidiously. A person might simply fall asleep, too cold, too weak, and never wake. Their bodies, preserved by the intense cold, might remain unnoticed for hours, or even days, by a family too exhausted to realize the subtle shift, a chilling absence in the morning. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of death's intimate presence, the knowledge that anyone could succumb at any moment, fueled a deep-seated anxiety. It amplified the sense of profound helplessness, deepening the despair, transforming the fragile sanctuary of the home into a space perpetually shadowed by mortality. Its story, written in every quiet passing, whispered of profound fragility. Winter deaths reveal a vital secret. Cold claimed the old, the sick, and the unlucky, quietly and often. This harsh reality shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Part 5. Endurance and Memory Stories by Firelight. Stories by firelight were a profound ancient ritual. Tales, prayers, and songs passed the hours and calmed the fear, transforming the oppressive gloom into a canvas for the imagination, binding the small family group in shared memory, wisdom, and a profound sense of connection to their ancestors and the spirit world. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-built home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the low murmur of muffled coughs, and the gentle breathing of a family huddled close. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight, illuminated faces wrapped with ancient wisdom and shared emotion. The central hearth fire, carefully banked and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was the heart of the home. Its flickering orange and red light was the sole beacon against the overwhelming darkness that pressed in from all sides. Around this fragile glow, the family would gather, drawing close, their bodies pressed together, not just for warmth, but for the profound psychological comfort of proximity. Listen to the low, resonant voice of the storyteller, often an elder, or the head of the household. Their words would weave through the smoky air, recounting ancient tales, local legends, stories of saints and their miracles, heroic sagas of knights and kings, or simple folk tales of animals and mischievous spirits. Hear the soft gasps of children, their eyes wide and fixed on the dancing shadows, their small imaginations populating the gloom with the creatures and characters of the tales. See the elders, their faces etched with the hard-won wisdom of countless winters, listening intently, their own memories intertwining with the narrative. Tales, prayers, and songs passed the hours and calmed the fear. These stories served multiple vital functions. They were a powerful way to keep the mind from dwelling on the deadly cold, the gnawing hunger, and the pervasive fear of the night, offering a psychological escape. They taught the young about the history of their village, the customs of their ancestors, the moral lessons embedded in their faith, and the practical knowledge needed for survival. Prayers, often whispered and heartfelt, offered spiritual solace and a plea for protection. Songs, rhythmic and comforting, soothed weary souls, creating a fragile shield against despair. The flickering firelight, casting its dancing shadows on the rough, uneven surfaces of the wattle and daub walls, became an integral part of the storytelling. Familiar objects, a hanging tool, a basket, a simple stool, would be transformed into monstrous shapes, into dancing figures, into spectral presences. These were the living shadows, their constant transformation a source of both fascination and subtle, unsettling fear, amplifying the drama of the oral narratives. The communal act of storytelling, performed in the intimate circle of firelight, was vital for social cohesion. It bound the family together, reinforcing their shared identity, their collective memory, their understanding of their place in the vast, often terrifying world. It was a ritual of cultural transmission, ensuring that the wisdom and heritage of the past were passed down to future generations, however fragile their existence. Its story, written in every whispered word, whispered of profound connection. Stories by Firelight reveals a vital secret. Tales, prayers, and songs passed the hours and calmed the fear. This ancient ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. Faith against the cold. Faith against the cold was a profound Bailey reality. Crosses on beams, prayers whispered into smoke. Belief offered warmth when fire could not, transforming abstract piety into a tangible, psychological shield, underscoring the unwavering spiritual strength and profound hope that defied the overwhelming, lethal indifference of nature. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-burnt home, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, and the low, fervent murmur of whispered prayers. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight illuminated faces etched with weariness, but softened by profound, unwavering belief. The medieval world was deeply, profoundly Christian. For peasants, life was a daily struggle, but it was also a pilgrimage towards eternal salvation. God's presence, the intercession of saints, and the power of prayer were as real as the cold itself. In winter, when physical comfort was minimal and death ever present, faith became a crucial, existential lifeline, providing an antidote to despair. Listen to the low, rhythmic murmur of whispered prayers, their words barely audible above the soft crackle of the dwindling fire, rising with the smoke towards the heavens. Hear the gentle breathing of your family, their lives utterly dependent on divine mercy. See the crude, handmade crosses, perhaps painted on oak beams or carved into the wattle and daub walls, their presence a silent, unwavering prayer, a tangible symbol of their Christian faith. Crosses on beams, prayers whispered into smoke. Belief offered warmth when fire could not. Crosses, symbols of Christ's sacrifice and protection, were ubiquitous in medieval homes. Painted on walls, carved into beams, or worn as small amulets, their presence was believed to ward off evil spirits, to bring blessings, and to offer protection against illness and cold. The act of whispering prayers into the smoke of the hearth was a deeply symbolic gesture, sending their supplications directly to God, carried heavenward on the rising plumes, mingling with the very air they breathed. Belief offered warmth when fire could not. The spiritual warmth derived from unwavering faith was a profound psychological comfort. It provided an antidote to despair, a source of inner strength that transcended the physical cold. The knowledge that God and the saints watched over them, that their suffering had meaning, that an eternal reward awaited, fueled a quiet, tenacious hope, allowing them to endure hardships that would otherwise break them. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of their faith, the daily rituals of prayer, the reliance on spiritual protection, these fostered a deep sense of purpose, a profound resilience against the immense and different forces of nature. It provided a crucial anchor against despair, a profound sense of purpose in a world defined by hardship. Its story, written in every whispered prayer, whispered of profound solace. Faith against the cold reveals a vital secret. Crosses on beams, prayers whispered into smoke. Belief offered warmth when fire could not. This ancient ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The longest nights. As the brutal medieval German winter plunged the half-timber-built homes into profound darkness and relentless cold, and the threats of starvation, illness, and death pressed in from all sides, a particular period of dread, yet also profound significance, arrived. The longest nights were a crucial test of human endurance. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope, transforming the terrifying peak of cold into a gradual, almost ritualistic progression towards renewal, and underscoring the deep connection between celestial cycles, human resilience, and the unwavering belief in the eventual return of warmth and light. Imagine the air inside the half-timber-built home, utterly frigid, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the earthy scent of damp straw, old timber, and the subtle tang of human presence. Sounds within the dwelling included the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, and the profound, almost eerie silence that snow itself created. Frost-fogged windows glowing with firelight illuminated faces etched with weariness, but softened by profound anticipation. The winter solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year, around December 21st in the northern hemisphere, was a moment of immense cosmic and human significance in medieval society. It marked the deepest descent into winter, a peak of cold and darkness, a time when humanity's existence felt most precarious, most vulnerable to the lethal grip of nature. Listen to the low murmur of voices from within the thick walls, their sounds absorbed and softened. Hear the soft crackle of the central hearth fire, its warmth rising, gradually filling the interior. See the faces of your family, their expressions etched with weariness, their eyes distant, fixed on some unseen horizon, awaiting the subtle shift in the length of daylight. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope. The passing of the solstice, the knowledge that from this point forward, the days would slowly, inexorably, begin to lengthen, even by a minute, was a powerful psychological turning point. It brought a profound sense of relief, a tangible promise of the sun's gradual return, a spiritual affirmation that the cold, the darkness, the endless struggle would not last forever. Each day after the solstice was a step towards spring, a slow, arduous march towards renewal. This gradual increase in daylight, however imperceptible to modern eyes, was meticulously observed and celebrated by medieval peasants. It provided a crucial anchor against despair, a tangible reason to cling to hope, a visible sign that the earth itself was slowly, reluctantly awakening, preparing for the inevitable thaw. The psychological impact was immense. The constant awareness of this celestial cycle, the belief that the sun, though distant, was slowly reclaiming its power, fostered an unwavering resilience. It transformed the deepest despair into a quiet, tenacious hope, fueling their will to endure the remaining months of winter, their spirits lifted by the promise of lengthening days. Rituals and celebrations, often rooted in older pagan traditions absorbed into Christianity, would mark the solstice. Feasts, special prayers, communal gatherings. These were acts of collective hope, reaffirming their faith in the cyclical nature of life, the promise of rebirth. Its story, written in every lengthening day, whispered of profound renewal. The longest nights reveal a vital secret. Winter solstice marked survival. Each day after meant hope. This ancient ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The thaw returns. As the relentless medieval German winter, with its long dark nights and pervasive cold, finally began its slow, grudging retreat from the land, a profound transformation commenced, not with a sudden burst, but with a delicate, almost whispered sign. The thaw returns was a joyous, life-affirming miracle. Snow melts, roofs strip, and life slowly moves outside again, transforming a landscape of despair into a vibrant canvas of renewal, a profound act of nature's forgiveness that celebrated the triumph of life over the long, harsh grip of winter, and reaffirmed the enduring human spirit. Imagine the air, crisp and invigorating, thick with the earthy scent of thawing soil, of new growth, and the pervasive aroma of wood smoke, mingling with the fresh, clean tang of melting snow. The sounds are no longer the mournful howl of the wind. They include the distant, rhythmic drip of melting ice, the cheerful calls of returning birds, and the cautious murmur of villagers emerging from their homes. Pale dawn over frost-bitten fields, now visibly softening, illuminates a world slowly, miraculously, coming back to life. For countless months, the medieval German landscape had been locked in winter's grip. Roads were buried under snow, rivers frozen solid, and fields lay fallow. The very act of living had been confined to the small, smoky warmth of their homes. But with the subtle lengthening of the days after the solstice, with the sun's tentative, returning warmth, the immutable power of the cold began its slow, inevitable surrender. Listen to the distinct, almost crystalline drip, drip that would pierce the profound silence of the morning. A soft, rhythmic cadence echoing from the eaves of every half-timber-bird home. Hear the subtle groans and creaks as the thawing snow shifted on the roofs, releasing its grip. See the small, dark rivulets of water, slowly tracing their path down timber-bird walls, glistening faintly in the pale daylight, a tangible sign of profound change. Snow melts, roofs strip, and life slowly moves outside again. The immense blanket of snow, which had covered the world for months, would slowly begin its grudging surrender, melting into muddy rivulets that flowed across the fields, creating a symphony of returning water. The heavy snow on the roofs would liquefy, dripping relentlessly, creating a constant, soothing rhythm. As the ground softened and the muddy paths slowly reappeared, life cautiously ventured outside again. Villagers, their faces still gaunt from winter's privations, would emerge, greeting each other with hushed words, their eyes holding a shared understanding of the hardships endured. Children, those who had survived, would venture out, their small forms eager to explore the newly revealed, muddy landscape, their laughter tentative at first, but growing with renewed hope. The psychological and spiritual impact was immense. The thaw returns like forgiveness. It was a profound antidote to the despair of the long winter, a powerful affirmation that the cold, the darkness, the endless struggle had been endured. It instilled a renewed sense of hope, a tangible connection to the cyclical rhythms of nature, a belief in the promise of renewal, a collective sigh of gratitude for nature's mercy. Its story, painted in every melting drop, whispered of profound renewal. The thaw returns reveals a vital secret. Snow melts, roofs drip, and life slowly moves outside again. This ancient ritual shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy minus 20 degrees Celsius. making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill. The houses that still stand. As the brutal medieval German winter finally receded, giving way to the gentle rhythms of spring and the vibrant promise of new life, the immense hardships endured left an indelible mark, not just on the land, but on the very fabric of human resilience. The houses that still stand are a profound, unshakable legacy. Centuries later, these homes remain, silent proof of human endurance against cold, transforming humble structures into timeless monuments, echoing through the vast, silent landscape of history, and defining the very essence of medieval survival. Imagine the air, crisp and clean, thick with the sweet scent of new growth, damp earth, and the pervasive aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the low hum of modern life. The sounds are no longer the mournful howl of the wind. They include the rhythmic beat of distant farming machinery, the low murmur of contemporary voices, and the gentle rustle of leaves, all echoing the profound lessons of past winters. Pale dawn over frost-bitten fields, now verdant with new growth, illuminates homes that have defied time. The timber-framed houses of medieval Germany, meticulously built from oak, wattle, and daub, with their steeply pitched roofs and insulating walls, were constructed with a profound understanding of their harsh environment. They were designed not just for temporary shelter, but for longevity, for enduring countless brutal winters, for providing a continuous sanctuary for generations. Listen to the low murmur of modern tourists, their voices hushed with awe and curiosity as they visit carefully preserved medieval villages. Hear the creak of ancient timbers, still supporting their roofs, still defying the elements, their sounds resonating with centuries of quiet human presence. See the half-timbered walls, their dark oak frames contrasting with the lighter daub infill. Their forms a visual testament to ingenious craftsmanship, a blend of strength and beauty. Centuries later, these homes remain, silent proof of human endurance against cold. Many of these timber-framed houses, meticulously maintained, still stand today, scattered across Germany and other parts of Europe. They are not mere historical relics. They are living testaments to the quiet ingenuity, the profound resilience, and the unwavering determination of the medieval people who built and lived in them. They defy the passage of time, bearing witness to lives lived on the edge of endurance. These enduring structures stand as silent proof of how humanity, with limited resources but immense knowledge, found ways to defy temperatures of -20 degrees Celsius. They showcase the effectiveness of their building techniques, the insulating power of thick mud and straw, the wisdom of low ceilings, the self-shedding design of steep roofs, the strength of their carefully chosen timbers. The memory of the cold, the hunger, the constant fear, and the profound resilience forged in those brutal winters is embedded in these homes. They are physical anchors to a distant past, reminding us of the immense challenges humanity has faced and the remarkable ingenuity it has displayed in overcoming them. They speak of the quiet strength of ordinary families, the collective determination to persist, to build, to endure. Its story, etched in every enduring beam, whispers of unwavering resilience. The houses that still stand reveal a vital secret. Centuries later, these homes remain, silent proof of human endurance against cold. This timeless legacy shaped how medieval Germans endured brutal cold through craft, ritual, and quiet resilience, forever tethered to the unyielding will to defy -20 degrees Celsius, making their homes enduring symbols of survival against the impossible chill, a constant reminder of how humanity built to survive and how its memory lives on. When the last log in the hearth settles into a deep, glowing red, and the winter wind presses hard against crooked timber walls, you begin to understand something the people of medieval Germany learned winter after winter: that a house was not just shelter. It was survival made solid, a careful balance of wood, earth, smoke, and patience, held together by hands that knew. The cold would show no mercy. long before radiators warmed quiet rooms, before glass sealed the night outside, before heat arrived with the turn of a dial, there were families who trusted oak beams, clay-packed walls, and a fire that could never be allowed to die. They woke beneath wool blankets, breath fogging in the dim light, listening to the creak of timbers as frost tightened its grip on the house. Outside, snow buried paths and fields. Inside, the hearth breathed slowly, its warmth trapped low by heavy ceilings. And thick thatch above. Smoke curled and lingered, blackening beams that would stand for centuries. Eyes burned, lungs ached, but warmth stayed. And warmth meant life. Families slept close together. Children pressed against parents. Animals shared the room, their bodies adding precious heat to the long night. Boots dried by the fire. Soup simmered slowly. Stories were told not loudly, but softly, as if sound itself might let the cold creep in. And when the embers dimmed, someone rose from bed, wrapped in wool and shadow, to stir the fire once more. A small act, a quiet duty, but one that kept frost from claiming the room. Outside, wind howled through empty streets. Snow piled against doors and shutters. The world slept beneath ice and darkness. Inside the half-timbered house, light flickered on clay walls, and human life endured. Not comfortably, not easily, but stubbornly. Maybe that is the quiet truth. These old houses still whisper today. That survival is not dramatic. It is careful. It is shared. It is built slowly, beam by beam, and tended every night. So rest now. Let the fire settle. Let the snow drift harmlessly outside your walls. Let the oak beams hold firm above you, as they have for generations. You have walked softly in imagination, through rooms shaped by winter, craft, and quiet resilience. Sleep well tonight, and may the warmth of those ancient hearths keep watch over your dreams.